I'm letting it play out today. Good morning and welcome to Nature Watch. Nature Watch is sponsored by Waddell's Nursery, Floral Garden, and Bird Center at the corner of 12th Street and Millam Road. And now your host of Nature Watch, the one, the only, Gary Miller.
Good morning.
Hey,
Yes.
how are you?
Oh, good. It's a little cloudy out there this morning.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a lot cloudy out there this morning. But
Well, it's going to remain cloudy because we have another system moving in. Thankfully, the big mess, the heavier snow, 3 to 6 inches, some local 7-inch spots are going to be well north of Grand Rapids, north by 96, up near Traverse City, Cadillac, all of that. And I looked at WKZO radar a few minutes ago, and it's showing that mess moving that way.
and I know Sarah Flynn this morning, I was looking at her forecast. It looked like about Monday, Tuesday, we might have some sunshine. That actually be nice to see. I know this last week, the couple times that the sun did peek out in the afternoon, I looked out at my bird feeders. There was nary a bird in sight.
Really?
I was like, wow, that's unusual. Usually there's a couple flitting around or so. There were no birds. I'm like, is there a hawk around or something? I looked around, no hawk. I think the birds were out foraging somewhere else because the sunshine, a little warmer, seemed a little warmer. A couple days in a row it did that with a little bit of sunshine. So definitely unusual. I saw something unique actually was posted last Sunday on the Groundhog Day. Was from Australia, and I know we're not in Australia, but I thought what they posted was significant and something to think about. So what they posted, portions of Queensland, Australia, in the day before, had nearly 30 inches of rainfall in 24 hours.
That's insane.
More than an inch an hour.
Well, and
That's like an inch and a quarter an hour.
that's like a monsoon.
That's
Our
nowhere for
Gatron
water.
porches.
Nowhere for water to go like that.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So they had some photos and everything was flooded, surprisingly.
It makes you wonder how everything's going to transition here when we get to summertime.
Well, there's those weather systems that we're seeing come through again. Another one today. On the national radar map, and actually you can see the advisories and warnings. There's a whole streak across the upper part of the 48 states, and it goes from the west coast to the east. Actually, up to at least to Michigan, and then sort of drops down and gets to New England and that. But you can just sort of see where those winter weather patterns are going. So it's still winter. The next week forecast looks pretty typical weather, maybe a little cooler than normal, but
seasonable. That's my favorite
seasonable.
word.
Yeah,
That's my favorite word.
It's still winter. It's still winter.
Highs in the, Monday around 34, 35, but then we fall off into the 20s for the rest of the week. But that's seasonable. That's fine, Back up Saturday, Sunday, Monday of this coming weekend and next week, following week, we could see some snow.
Yes.
So
the another report that I saw this last week came out from USDA. They've discovered a new strain of bird flu, the HPAI, and it's a new strain they've never seen in dairy herds before. It was in four events that they found confirmed in dairy herds in Nevada, and as part of the national milk testing strategy. So they actually caught it, but. So I actually looked at the DNR and MDARD sites here in Michigan to see if they had any changes on recommendations on bird feeders and that, and they have not. Basically, they're recommending clean your feeders, make sure that they stay clean. If you have a small backyard chicken flock, poultry flock, they recommend not having feeders out. But other than that, keep them clean. Just watch guidelines. If you see some birds that you think are ill, they have things to watch for, a couple little quick note sheets to look at on the DNR and MDARD sites. And they suggest if you see a dead bird, they actually have a way to report that. And if you handle them with gloves and wash your hands thoroughly afterwards.
I have I have a feeling that we are going to be dealing with this for quite some time.
That's been around for a long time, and
right.
the wild birds have had it.
But it's really escalated.
And I saw in some news this morning that Lake Michigan shoreline, they've had dead ducks washing ashore, most likely caused by the bird flu. So,
can I offer some hope? Can I make you smile?
Yes.
Okay. We know spring is coming soon. Bronco softball is underway. Bronco baseball will be starting up very soon. Tigers spring training starting up February 12th. Pitchers and catchers report. And, of course, then we move into March. Oberon Day. and this is as far as my 45 days go out. So Oberon Day must be 45 days away, kids. and the outlook for that day, mix of sun and clouds and 56. But who's going to believe a 45-day forecast?
And we're actually less days than that to the first day of spring.
I know.
So coming up soon. Got about 5 weeks or so yet.
Even shorter to the first day of meteorological spring, March 1st.
So some neat events coming up. Actually, don't forget that National Bird Feeding Wild Bird Feeding Month started last Saturday. It runs through the whole month.
Yep.
So feed those wild birds. February is a very important time to keep those feeders filled. If you can do that, the birds are really looking for that extra energy. They've foraged some of the natural feed that they can find, and like the little ice we had earlier this week, that ice coating tends to keep birds from eating any of that foraged food because it's hard to get to because it's got an ice coating in it. So make sure you keep those feeders filled, and this month is really critical for making sure that they have that energy. Little note, if you want to hop in the car soon and head towards Waddell's, today at 10 a.m. there is a seminar called Attracting Bluebirds and Chickadees to Nesting Boxes. And there's a $5 fee for that class, but as part of the Green Thumb Club, if you have a chance to get to that, that'd be fantastic. Mm-hmm. And some other events tomorrow, the Audubon Society Kalamazoo is doing their Winter Rarities field trip. They're meeting at the Oakland Park and Ride, Oakland Drive Park and Ride. And there's info on their website, KalamazooAudubon.org. Next week, Wednesday, Kellogg Bird Sanctuary has an online Birds and Coffee online chat at 10 a.m. It's via Zoom. Marissa Jardine from the Bird Center of Michigan will be talking about saving songbirds. So interesting hour talk. Great Backyard Bird Count is coming up next weekend, February 14th through the 17th. It was launched in 1998 by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and the National Audubon Society. And 2009, Birds Canada joined them. So those three groups are actually the sponsors of the Great Backyard Bird Count. They actually asked, there's info on the website, birdcount.org, and you can find how to do that. They actually have a Zoom meeting coming up this next week that you can attend. I'll say that in quotes. So you can actually learn exactly what you need to do. They ask that you watch a feeder or watch an area for 15 minutes or more, keep tabs on species. That's all part of that Backyard Citizen Scientist program to see how birds are doing everywhere. And it's actually worldwide now. So it's interesting to do, something to do, fun with that. Okay. Next Saturday from 1 to 4, there's a Birds and Blooms event at the Wolf Lake Fish Hatchery. And they have all sorts of groups that are actually attending that and sponsoring that. It's actually sponsored by the Michigan DNR, Friends of Wolf Lake, Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones, Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, Van Buren County Conservation District. And actually Kalamazoo and Bloom is part of that too. So it's a neat event. They got a lot of neat activities. It's a family event. So check out the info on that. Most of those groups have info on their site. Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones, I know, had some info. You can check out Facebook, Wolf Lake Hatchery, and they will have info if there's bad weather. And we had it through there pretty well. Run for the Trees sign up is coming up, so you want to help do a little fundraising for Michigan DNR for planting trees and that. Do a little Google on that. Run for the Trees. It's a neat program. It's virtual, so you do it on your own. Do it in April, so you do it around Arbor Day and Earth Day, and neat little way to help support the DNR and get some more trees planted.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Do you want a gift card? I think you do. Yeah. Tell you what, let's give away Waddell's gift card right now with our weekly trivia question. First correct caller to answer Gary's question at 269-382-4280 will win a $20 gift card to Waddell's Nursery, Floral Garden, and Bird Center. The question today is...
This one's going to be a fairly easy one. So when do bald eagles' heads typically finish turning white?
Oh, really?
So they might start turning white at an earlier age, but I'm looking for an age, and it's sort of a bracket of time. So at what age do bald eagles' heads typically finish turning white?
Okay.
And it's a pretty common, very common consensus out there that when those bald eagle heads turn white.
269-382-4280. My hair is slowly getting that way, by the way.
And Jim is much older than what I'm looking for age-wise.
But my beard is definitely there. There's no doubt about it. 382-4280. Good morning, WKZO. Who is this?
Hi, Jim Jasper here.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good. I like your name.
Good morning, Jim.
What's your guess on this?
2 to 3 years old.
Oh, that's a good guess, but the typically they're looking at just a little bit older than that.
Oh, there you go. Try back again, Jim. 269-382-4280. It's a good question. I like that.
Yeah, so it's not, some are going to turn earlier, but pretty well consensus that they have a bracket of 2 years time frame or your time frame basically between two ages.
I had somebody and they dropped out. 269-382-4280. What age do bald eagles' hair?
They're feathers. Yeah,
or the feathers.
Yeah.
Well,
the feathers.
White. Feathers, hair.
Jim's hair is turning white.
My feathers are going toast anyway. Good morning, WKZO. Who is this?
This is Jim.
Hey, how are you? This is a different Jim, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, if you have your radio up, turn it down a little bit. I hear a little bit of feedback.
We're heading that way right now.
Okay, cool. What's your guess here, sir?
5 years.
Yeah, I'll take that. It's between 4 and 5 years, and they typically say closer to the 5 years that they finish turning white. So we'll accept that answer.
All right. Hey, Jim wins from Jim and Gary. There you go. $20 gift card for you, sir, from Waddell's. I need to get some information from you, so can you hold on the line for just a moment?
I sure can.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And we'll be back with more Nature Watch right here on WKZO.
Your sweetheart deserves the very best this Valentine's Day. And the floral shop at Waddell's Nursery Florist and Garden Center is where you'll find the longest-lasting, top-quality flowers in town. Call Waddell's or visit Waddell's.com to order the perfect bouquet, like extra-large Dew Fresh roses or the Precious Love Medley bouquet in a keepsake pink vase with gold hearts and filled with large roses and bursts of mini roses. Maybe your sweetie would rather have a plant like an orchid, kalanchoe, or peace lily. Waddell's designers can even make a custom bouquet with all their favorites and can also add a special touch with candy, balloons, or a stuffed animal. You'll never know what you'll get from an out-of-town source, but with Waddell's, you'll be assured of cheerful, prompt delivery and gorgeous, long-lasting flowers. Call 345-1195 or go to Waddell's.com. Open Saturdays 9 to 5, Monday through Friday 9 to 6, with extended Valentine's hours on Thursday, February 13th from 9 to 7. Happy Valentine's Day from Waddell's.
I like that it's local.
WKZO. More local news on the radio than any other station in town. And online, too, at WKZO.com.
847. Jim in Battle Creek, our big winner of a $20 gift card to Waddell's Nursery, Floral, Garden, and Bird Center as Nature Watch continues. I'm Jim. He's Gary.
Yeah, if you have any questions or observations, give us a call. 269-382-4280 or text us at 80373. And I actually going to throw a little question out there, so if you have any comments, please call in or text us. Love to hear you, though. So my feeders, I've noticed this year that the finch population is down considerably. I've had a few goldfinches in, a few purple finch and house finch. And so the question is, how do you tell the difference between purple finch and house finch? Because they look almost identical. And so the easy way to tell that, at least with the males, is if you look at the color. Purple finches are a deep cranberry or raspberry color on most of their body. Male house finches are more orange and red with the color concentrated on their heads and chests. Females are more difficult to tell apart, so you got to look closely at their faces. Purple finches have a bolder face pattern with 2 white stripes stretching from their beaks to the nape of their necks. And another way to look at that, look at the belly of the finches. On the males, you're going to see below the wings, there's some looks like streaks of darker brown or darker color on that belly, and that is indicative of the house finch. Purple finches do not have that striping on the feathers below them. Now, common redpolls are very similar coloration, but they typically will be more migratory right now. Actually, but probably more south than anything. So you might see a few red poles, but typically more farther south right now. But house finches, purple finches, you'll see both. Goldfinches. But if you've seen a lot of finches, I'd love to hear it. I've noticed that the last couple of years that the finch population seems to be down in numbers. And I did see they had a report this week that the monarch population in one of their sites that they monitor was unbelievably low. They've had, just a couple thousand butterflies where they've had hundreds of thousands in years past. Since they've been monitoring these sites, the second lowest population count they've seen. And one of the sites that they had, I know that it was close to 100,000 butterflies that they've seen in the higher population years. They've seen 198 this year. 198. That's significant.
Wow.
So if you have a chance, plan on making sure you got that milkweed patch set to go for this year, so the butterflies, the larvae, have something to eat. And you want to use common milkweed or some of the native milkweed. There are a couple of milkweeds out there that are not native, and the larvae will feed on them or may not feed on them, but they won't survive even if they do feed on them. So one thing important to have those native plants.
Okay.
I have seen a lot of chickadees at my my feeders, and chickadees are always one of those birds that probably one of the first birds you're going to see at a feeder. You put a feeder out, probably one of the first birds you're going to see, if not the first bird, is going to be a chickadee. They seem to know when those feeders get put out, and they're pretty used to seeing people. I've seen lots of videos where people have put a scarecrow form out there with a flannel shirt on and look like an arm extended with a feeder, and get the birds used to that, and then put the same shirt on and hold the feeder in their arm and hold very still, and the chickadees will eat out of their hand, basically. I don't suggest trying that because we've got the bird flu and that. We don't want to spread that around. It can spread to humans, but not very commonly. But we don't want to take precautions. And you don't want to get them to get too used to humans because they tend to get a little lackadaisical as far as predators sometimes, and so it's better actually to let them stay wild and just observe them from a distance.
Okay, there you go.
But chickadees are actually pretty neat because they, and we usually have the black-capped chickadee here. There are a couple other chickadee species in North America, but the black-capped is the most common. I remember running across an article, quite a few years ago, and the little comment is that chickadees can remember where they store seed. So they will typically eat seeds. They will eat some insects, but eat a lot of seed. They will take seed and tuck it between a little loose piece of bark, little nooks and crannies. They will remember 1,500 or more locations for that seed. And I know I've mentioned that before, but that's surprising for that small bird. They remember where all those things. I have a hard time remembering where 100 things are, even 10 sometimes. So
you and me both.
So I thought that was pretty amazing that those birds can remember that and find most of that seed.
Yeah. If you're like me and you're kind of a novice at bird watching or listening or whatnot, or you can't tell what's what, there's a pretty cool app. I'm going to make use of it this spring. It's called Merlin Bird ID. You turn that app on, and then you just sit out in your backyard or wherever, and it'll identify bird sounds and let you know what birds are out there.
Yeah, actually I did that several times this last summer. It was fun to do because I'd heard a bird, and I'm like, I think I know what that is, but I want to make sure. And Merlin was picking up bird calls that I couldn't even hear with my ears. I know I have a little hearing problem. I have hearing aids that help that out, so I usually hear things pretty well. But they were so faint that I could not hear them, but Merlin was picking them up, and it was interesting to see some of the birds that Merlin was picking up. I couldn't hear them, but Merlin was picking up, and there were birds that they were somewhere in the area. There weren't birds you don't typically see. That's probably why, because they're hiding. So Merlin was picking them up. That was actually fun to do. Audubon Society has a pretty good app, too, but Merlin is fantastic as far as that ID. And it's just fun to sometimes relax and to sit out there and watch that and see what all the different birds are calling right then.
Right.
So that Merlin app is from the Cornell Ornithology Lab, and so that their website's fantastic too. So it's all about birds. They got all sorts of info on birds, and you want some nice fun reading on a cold day that with the weather. You don't want to sit and watch the birds, do a little reading at the same time, and.
I was just looking, and we're going back to weather for a second because I saw something from the Indiana Storm Network. We have a winter weather advisory north of us,
Yeah, I just noticed that we were bracketed this today.
We now have one south of us.
Yes.
Starting at 10 down in Indiana. So
yeah, and in between we're like, oh, it's just winter.
Yeah. kind of wild,
Yeah.
but that's we'll take it. We've had enough fun lately.
But I've seen quite a few hawks around too. I know quite a few sightings. People have seen snowy owl in Southwest Michigan again, and there've been still golden eagle sightings. So watch for those birds. There's a lot of birds out there. I know my feeders usually about mid morning and very early afternoon. All sorts of birds in there. They just gets quite crowded. I've noticed with the cloudy days they tend to eat more, and I mentioned before with the bad weather they tend to be in the feeders more. With this a little bit of dusting of snow here and there and the cloudiness, I'm going to guess they're going to be probably at the feeders a little bit more this next week, and I'm back up to about a little over a day and a half to fill my feeders. So there's more activity again. I know I have seen some new birds around, too, that I hadn't seen before. I've had some starlings in, and those things just sort of sit there and gorge themselves. They'll clean a feeder out in no time. So if you want to try to get rid of those starlings, and you can switch to safflower. They don't like safflower. Or you can get a feeder that has the cage around it, and the starlings are just broad enough that they can't get in those openings on those cage feeders, and so the smaller birds can typically fit in there.
Yeah, birds are kind of like us. They eat more when it's cloudy and dreary.
Yeah.
When it's sunny out,
sort of
we're
that
out
comfort.
enjoying it. Yeah. So it's kind of amazing how you can compare.
And those starlings, they nest just about anywhere. I know one of the stories I heard at one point that they're from Europe originally, and they brought them over here because people missed the sounds of their call. Now, if you ever heard a starling call, it is not very. I don't think it's very pleasant. So, not a bird I like listening to. Now, red-winged blackbirds are different. That's usually I like hearing red-winged blackbirds because that's usually one of the first signs of, hey, spring is finally here. One of those warm days, and you hear those red-winged blackbirds calling. So it's fun to see. I know there's been a few sightings of red-winged blackbirds in Michigan. There were a couple that were confirmed, a lot of unconfirmed ones, which is sort of unusual for this time of year. And so I'm guessing those few starlings that I'm seeing are some earlier arrivals. They decided, it's going to be it's been warm enough. We're going to move a little further north again. Typically, they don't stick around. They usually go a little farther south. They don't like the cold quite as much. But these must be some brave ones. And we got feed. We can sit here and we can just gorge ourselves, and they do.
Oh, there you go.
And had a squirrel. I noticed in one of the maple trees near the feeders. A big fox squirrel, and I'm like, oh, you're not coming into the bird feeder, are you? And I haven't seen him on the feeder yet, so I'm thinking the squirrel's been staying away so far. Or if anything, has been just cleaning up a little bit of the seed that the birds have tossed out of the feeders. But my ground feeding birds have been cleaning that up quite regularly, too. So those ground feeders, juncos a lot of times will do ground feeding. Even cardinals. Cardinals do quite a bit of ground feeding. Typically, the blue jays come in and they sort of toss out a bunch of seed and like, oh, there's one I like. In the meantime, they've tossed out, a dozen or two seeds. And the ground feeding birds, some of the sparrow species also like doing that ground feeding. You get mourning doves will take care of that feed. So occasionally some people have had turkeys come in and do that cleanup.
Okay.
Make sure you keep those suet cakes out there. The birds have that extra energy that they need. Most birds will eat some suet, especially the woodpeckers. I've had some the other day, had two flickers on the bird feeder, one of my bird feeders at the same time standing on the roof.
Oh.
And flickers are pretty good-sized birds, so it's actually pretty neat to see.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right, you have your Waddell shirt on. Are you part of the seminar?
No, I'm not doing the bird seminar. I'm actually doing one about composting afterwards. But I'm probably going to sit in on the bird seminar because you always pick up neat tidbits.
Yeah, you can only learn. That's right.
Yeah, you can always learn. You always learn something new. That's always my goal when I go outside in nature and do a hike. I always find something new to learn.
There you go.
It's always fun.
Cool. I had a question, but I totally forgot it. It's one of those days. Oh, let's wrap it up this way because the Super Bowl's tomorrow. Our favorite team isn't there, but who you got for a winner?
Well, I have to sort of root for the Chiefs, even though a lot of people don't. My daughter lives in Kansas City. But from the bird team, I got to root for the Eagles. The Eagles have been a long time since they've been there. So.
Yeah. And do we really want Patrick to win another one in a row?
Well, nice to mix it up now and then.
Okay.
I guess the whole time I'm thinking there should be a lion there.
Quickly, 11 to 1 odds. Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift after the game tomorrow. That's literally online. I kid you not. Gary, thank you, and thank you for listening to this edition of Nature Watch. Tune in each Saturday at 8:30 for Nature Watch, brought to you by Waddell's Nursery, Floral Garden, and Bird Center at the corner of 12th Street and Millam Road, right here on 590 and 106.9 FM WKZO.